medium question of sketch a graph of position, velocity, and acceleration. So questions on this before we do the next one, before we sketch out a graph.
You said this was a warm-up?
No, it would count as whatever the
Medium?
what I sometimes refer to as the short answers. It's the medium, it's the middle.
Okay.
Even though it's going to be at the end of the test, it counts as one of the middle part of the test.
Okay.
If this was done correctly, then we already have sort of a quick and dirty sketch of what it's going to look like. I know it's going to be negative, 0, positive, 0, negative. No, A, B, C, D, E. It is a sketch. I'm not looking for numbers here, just some general idea. I know as a quick and dirty that it's 0 at E and J, E and I. So let's go ahead and mark those down. It is negative to start with, and so I'm just going to sort of do a dotted line. I strongly recommend doing this in pencil on a test. So just crudely what it's going to look like. We're going to adjust it in just a moment. This is position and time. Next, velocity. A, B, C. Now on the test, I give you the axes so that they're lined up better than what I'm drawing on the board here. But my velocity is 0 at B, G, and J. So B, G, and J. It is negative to start with. And then positive, then negative, and then 0 again. Again, just a quick crude sketch the first time I go through it, and then acceleration. And then very crudely, it's positive, then it's 0 from E to F. And it's 0 from H to I. It starts out positive. And then it shoots over to negative, back to 0, back to positive. All right. So the first thing that I'm doing when I'm grading it is I look to see, does the positive, negative, 0 match what you wrote over here? The next thing I look for is it differentiable everywhere? In other words, are there any sharp points? Well, potentially there's sharp points here, so when I do my final one, I need to make sure that it's smoothed out, and I don't think I have any other sharp points. Other than potentially the beginning or end, but the problem starts out with it already moving. So it should be differentiable. It should be a function. So do we have any vertical lines in here that are part of your graph? There should not be. And then, is it self-consistent? I have the way I've drawn my position here is my position starts out with a relatively low slope and then gets steeper. Well, if we think about that from a velocity point of view, I know that velocity is dx dt. What is this in terms of my position graph?
Derivative?
True. What does the derivative tell you?
Change.
Okay.
It's in, the instantaneous slope of your,
Keep going.
of the
Oh,
instantaneous.
sorry.
Of your, position graph.
Yeah, so my velocity graph should be the slope of my position graph. Well, I start out with a relatively low slope and then I get steeper, but here I start out with, my slope starts out negative and becomes less negative. So the question is, which one needs to be adjusted? Well, my acceleration actually, so my slope, it starts out at some speed and gets slower, so it starts out at some speed, and then B, it stops, turns around. So the velocity is positive. This is the slope of that. Not like that. Let's see if that makes any sense. So at B it stops, and so my slope should be 0 here. Then it picks up speed again. Oh, there's a problem there. Velocity is negative. There we go. Thought something was off. The bottom point here should be when the object is stopped, so that should be flat right there. It should be flat at G, so that should be a peak. And at J, it stops again, and so this should come around like that. So it should level off. So I've got some consistency there. This is 0 when the tangent is horizontal. All right. Let's do the same thing down here. When this is 0, are we dealing with a flat line right here? Well, not the way I've drawn it. So from E to F, my velocity doesn't change. From H to I, my velocity doesn't change. It peaks in speed at E, so let's sort of try to hone it a little bit better. Is that self-consistent? Well, let's see. My slope is negative, my velocity is negative, my slope is positive, my acceleration is positive. Acceleration is relatively constant from, actually up until we get to this turning point here. So my acceleration is positive till we get to D. So that actually should be somewhat flat, and this should be more of a straight line. At which point it will then curve down. And then from F to H, it is relatively constant. And then at J, my velocity goes off to 0, so, oh. That's straight there. No, that's not right. No, I guess it is. So my acceleration, so my velocity is going to 0, so it becomes more and more positive the way I've drawn it right here, and so the slope becomes more positive. There we go. I'm not saying there's not a mistake in there, but that in essence is the last little bit. So it should be differentiable, it should be continuous. No rifts in the space-time continuum. It should be a function, and it's a crude sketch. Anyone see any mistakes? Anything inconsistent? Now, the ideal is, if you made a mistake here, and you start to put it on over there, the ideal is that you go, oh, wait a second, this doesn't work. I can't have this positive and that negative at the same time for whatever the situation is. So then come back over here and take another look at this. But it's the end of the test, and so at that point, brains might be fried. So the question is, did I actually start this up again? I can't remember. Yes, I did. All right, questions? All right, you got the quiz next Monday. You got the first lab due on Wednesday, and you could begin on working on Master Set 2. We haven't covered all of the materials, but this type problem, you can start tackling that.
Are they due at the start of class on Wednesday, or?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the ideal. Now, officially, if no one hands it in on time, then I've immediately graded all of them on time, so everything's late. Late is if it's handed in after I have graded half of the ones handed in on time. So if one person hands it in, that gives some people leeway. The question is, how long does it take me to grade stuff? It used to be when Dale Loper was here teaching math, I could always go, I'm faster than Dale is, but he left, and so I don't know if anyone who's slower than I am. But I'm working on it. I'm trying to grade faster. We'll find out what happens this semester.
All right.
But yes, things they're supposed to be dead when you walk in. All right, have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you on Wednesday.
Ben, have you made any progress in the lab?